Hello everyone, welcome to this YouTube live session on Law of Diminishing Marginal Utility organized by Crack Economics and Statistics. This is Atman Shah. I teach economics at St. Xavier's College, Ahmedabad, India. You can reach us on this given email ID crack.eco.stat@gmail.com. In this video, I am going to discuss the law of diminishing marginal utility, the assumptions of the theory, the diagram, and the explanation of the diagram. On our YouTube channel, you can find the videos on economics, statistics, SPPS, and RStudio. So kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crack Economics and Statistics. Let's begin with the introduction. We know that consumers purchase goods and services to satisfy their wants, their needs. And the definition of utility is the property of a good or a commodity that enables it to satisfy human wants. For example, education, food grains, watch, TV, refrigerator, food, etc. So these goods and services have the capacity, have the ability to satisfy a particular human need, a particular human want, and the demand for this commodity depends on the utility they give. So measurement of utility plays an important role in microeconomics. In microeconomics, we basically studies the behavior of consumer and producer. The analysis of measurement of utility helps us to analyze, to understand the consumer behavior. Because the demand for a commodity depends on its utility. So the utility that consumer derives from the commodity directly affects the demand. The measurement of utility has two approaches. First is cardinal approach, which is developed by Alfred Marshall. This cardinal approach is developed by Alfred Marshall, and according to this approach, the utility can be quantified. Utility can be calculated. So here in cardinal approach, utility can be quantified. We can calculate the utility that consumer derives from a particular commodity or service in terms of money. And the ordinal approach is developed by J.R. Hicks. Here, utility cannot be quantified, but utility can be ranked. Utility can be ranked, can be ordered. So we can organize the commodities in terms of their utility. So suppose there are two commodities, commodity X, Y. Assume that there are three commodities, X, Y, and Z. So according to cardinal approach, we can quantify the utility that consumer derives from commodity X, commodity Y, and commodity Z. So from commodity X, suppose consumer derives 10 units of utility, from Y 15, and from Z 8. But according to this cardinal approach, we can say that consumer can give ranks. For example, consumer can give first rank to commodity Y, second rank to commodity X, and third rank to commodity Z. But consumer cannot calculate the exact utility that he or she derives from a particular commodity. So in cardinal approach, we use utility to analyze the demand. In ordinal approach, we use indifference curve. To analyze the demand. So basically, both the approaches are useful to analyze the consumer behavior, consumer demand in the market, how consumer achieves equilibrium in the market. Through cardinal approach, we use the marginal utility concept. In ordinal approach, we use the indifference curve approach. Now let's understand the theory. The law of diminishing marginal utility theory is developed by British economist Alfred Marshall. It's a cardinal approach. So here utility can be quantified. Utility can be quantified. So here utility is measured in terms of money. Marshall tried to measure the marginal utility in terms of money because he assumes that the marginal utility of money is constant. Now there is a huge debate whether the marginal utility of money is constant or not. But Marshall assumes that the consumer spends a very negligible amount on a single commodity out of his total income, and therefore the marginal utility of money is constant. And hence we can compute the utility that consumer derives from a particular commodity in terms of money. That is the idea of cardinal approach. Now, what is the definition of the law of diminishing marginal utility? Marshall says that during the course of consumption, as more and more units of a commodity are used, every successive units gives utility with a diminishing rate. As we consume more and more of a particular commodity, then each successive unit gives utility with a diminishing rate, provided other things same. So we assume that all other things are constant, and if consumer consumes a particular commodity, then each successive unit gives the marginal utility with a diminishing rate. So here marginal utility from each successive unit is declining. That is the idea. I'm repeating myself. The marginal utility that consumer derives from each successive unit is declining, although the total utility increases. So this is the definition given by Alfred Marshall. Now, first understand the assumptions of this theory. First assumption is units are same. The successive units are homogeneous. There is no change in the quantity, packing, color, everything is same. If the units are not same, we cannot prove the law of diminishing marginal utility. Second, there is no time lag between the consumption of each successive unit. For example, suppose a consumer is hungry, he is having a pizza. So there is no time lag between the consumption of each successive unit of a pizza. If there is a time lag, then each successive unit will give higher and higher utility. So here we assume that there is no time lag between the consumption of each successive unit of a particular commodity. Each unit of that pizza is same. So it is homogeneous. Third, constant consumer preferences. We assume that consumers' preferences, that there is no change in consumers' preferences. Fourth, adequate size of the units. So size are not, the size of a particular commodity is not too small or too large. The size is identical or reasonable. That is the commodity is not too small or too large. Otherwise, we cannot establish the relationship between each successive unit, the consumption of each successive units and marginal utility. So the size of that commodity that consumer is consuming is adequate. So if all these assumptions are true, we can say that each successive unit will give lower and lower utility to the consumer. So marginal utility from each successive unit is declining. Now let's understand this idea, this theory with the help of example. Here we have the definition. First column shows the quantity of commodity X. Second column shows the total utility and third column shows the marginal utility. Now suppose if consumer consumes the first unit of X, he derives the total utility of 18. Keep in mind that we are talking about the cardinal approach and therefore utility can be quantified, right? So total utility is 18 and marginal utility is also 18 from the first unit. Second unit, total utility increases from 18 to 30. Marginal utility is 30 minus 18, that is 12. The change in total utility due to additional consumption. So total utility increases by 12 units and therefore the marginal utility of the second unit is 12. Third unit, total utility increases from 30 to 40 and therefore marginal utility is 10. That is 40 minus 30. Fourth unit, total utility increases to 47 and therefore marginal utility is 7. Fifth unit, total utility is 50, marginal utility is 3. Sixth unit, total utility is 52, marginal utility is 2. Seventh unit, 52, marginal utility is 0. And eighth unit, total utility is 50, marginal utility is minus 2. Now, if you see this definition carefully, you can understand this table. During the course of consumption, as more and more units of a commodity are used, every successive unit gives utility with a diminishing rate. You can see every successive units gives the utility with a diminishing rate. The marginal utility from each successive unit is declining. The marginal utility from the first unit is 18, second unit 12, 10, 7, 3, 2, 0 and minus 2. Here you can see up to this point the total utility is increasing, but marginal utility is declining. So this is the idea of law of diminishing marginal utility. Let's understand it with the help of diagram. We have this table. This is the marginal utility schedule. Here we have quantity of X on horizontal axis and total utility and marginal utility on vertical axis. Now let's start with first unit of commodity X. So total and marginal utility is 18. So it starts from this point. Second unit, total utility is 30 and marginal utility is 12. Third unit, total utility is 40, marginal utility is 10. Fourth unit, total utility is 47, marginal utility is 7. Fifth, total utility is 50, marginal utility is 3. Sixth, total utility is 52, marginal utility is 2. Seventh unit, there is no change in total utility and therefore marginal utility is 0. So marginal utility curve touches the horizontal axis and it is 50 and marginal utility is minus 2, that is negative. So this shows that as consumer increases the consumption of a particular unit, then each successive unit gives the utility with a decreasing rate. At a particular point, there is no marginal utility from that commodity. And if consumer still continues to consume, it derives the negative marginal utility. So here this green curve is the total utility curve and red curve is the marginal utility curve, which is negatively sloped. You can see this marginal utility curve is negatively sloped. Now let's understand the explanation of this theory and the diagram. Let's talk about the total utility. So as consumption increases, total utility increases. At the beginning, the total utility increases. Here you see. Then it becomes maximum at 52. Maximum. And then it starts declining. So here it is decreasing. That is the explanation of the total utility curve. At the beginning, it increases, it becomes maximum, and after that threshold or after that point, it starts declining. Let's talk about the marginal utility curve. As consumption increases, marginal utility decreases. You see this portion. Marginal utility decreases. It becomes zero, this point. When consumer consumes the 7th unit of particular commodity, the marginal utility is zero because you see there is no change in the total utility here. And if consumer still consumes the more units of this commodity, the marginal utility becomes negative. Now, what is the relationship between total utility and marginal utility? First, when marginal utility decreases but positive, see this portion up to 6th unit, first to 6th unit, MU is declining but positive. In that case, total utility increases here. Second, when marginal utility is 0, 7th unit, you see total utility is maximized. So when marginal utility becomes 0, total utility is maximized. And third, when marginal utility decreases but negative, see this portion from 7th to 8th, decreases but negative, total utility declines or decreases. So first relationship, when marginal utility decreases but positive, total utility increases. Second, when marginal utility is 0, total utility is maximized. And third, when marginal utility decreases but negative, then total utility also decreases. So this is the idea of law of diminishing marginal utility. So we have discussed the theory, the assumptions, schedule and diagram both, and the explanation of the diagram. If you have any questions, you can write in the comment box. So this theory can help us to understand the consumer behavior. We can derive the consumer's demand curve from the marginal utility curve. And we can analyze or we can understand how consumer behaves in the market through this law of diminishing marginal utility. So thank you everyone for joining this session. If you find this video useful, kindly like and share, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crack Economics and Statistics. You can also find the videos on other topics of microeconomics, macroeconomics, international economics on our YouTube channel.